Almost every business is born with the ambition to start local, then grow global. But introducing any business to a new geographic market can be a significantly mind-bending challenge. There's the logistics of currency, cultural differences, the hassle of finding local people, and promoting your product or service to an entirely new prospect base. And if you get it wrong, the time costs and the financial costs can be seriously damaging. However, according to Elsita Meyer-Brandt, head of new market expansion and international marketing for Eventbrite, there are certain steps that anyone can take to reduce the risks and ease the passage of any brand into a new market. Elsita, thanks for taking the time to hang out with me today.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me.
Now, right now, you're in San Francisco. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, but you were born in Germany and you've worked in China and consulted across Spain, the UK, Serbia, Belgium, Hungary, and a bunch of other places. The world just seems to be getting smaller and smaller, yet so many people find it such a big challenge to move their business into a new marketplace. What do you think are the greatest challenges, and why do you think it's so hard?
Well, I think, it's always more comfortable to stay in your own market, and a lot of people are very risk averse. It takes some guts to go abroad and try something in a new market. And then, once you decided to do so and once you want to take the risk and go abroad, a lot of people don't know where to start. There's just so much to think of, and, that can be quite tricky to understand what the first step should be.
And a little bit frightening too, that the familiar is always comfortable and the new is always frightening. So today we'll be working through a 5-step process to ease the journey, to minimize the risks should your business have plans to enter a new market. Elsita, where would you like to start today?
Well, what I usually start when we look into a new market or when we decide to go abroad is to do my research. So really understand what the new markets are all about, which markets could we potentially expand into. And when I say research, it's really all about understanding your internal data. So if you're an online business and you're already being used across the globe or at least outside of your home country, we look into where do we see the biggest traction? Where do people already use Eventbrite to host maybe free events or even paid events across the world? And Eventbrite is currently used in over 180 countries already, while we're not localized in that many, of course. And then I look into the markets themselves, so the external market data, understanding, how big is the market potential, who are our competitors in those markets, and what's the market opportunity out there.
Yeah, and you have a particular tool that you use that you've developed called the ripeness model. I love the name. What's that about?
Yeah, so the ripeness model is helping us to identify how ripe a market is for Eventbrite. So we looked into different factors such as population, urban density, because for events, obviously it's really important that a lot of people live in one area.
So Nepal's not a target market for you right now?
Not right now, no.
Okay.
But for example, Ireland is a really small market, but 25% of the population lives in Dublin. So it's highly concentrated in certain areas, and that's a really interesting place for us to be in. We also look into things like mobile penetration, internet penetration, and the like. And then we compare the growth of these factors that I just mentioned with our past growth in those markets or in our home market. And we try to project based on this data how a market could develop in the future and how our revenues could develop in the future. And then, based on that, on the current development, we understand how ripe the model is. And based on the future development, we understand how much of a potential might be in this market.
Because these are all tools that you could probably look for on Google. So if you wanted to future project the growth of the GDP of a certain country, there are tools for that online, aren't there?
Definitely, yeah. So that's why we chose, factors that are available out there. So like population density or, e-commerce growth or mobile penetration. You can find all of this data out there. And, if you have a good analyst on your team that can help you put together a model to understand how these factors correlated with your internal data in the past, it's relatively easy to predict how this will develop in the near future.
So for our action step, I'm going to bring this back to basics. And the first thing that you said, which was audit existing customers. If you audit your existing customers and you find that there's a lot of them using your product in, say, Canada, or another, English-speaking country that's local to you, that would probably be a good place to start. Yes?
Yeah, definitely. I think, Eventbrite expanded, our first expansion market where we opened a new office was in the UK. And obviously, we saw a lot of traction there because the product was available in English. And so even before we had launched the eventbrite.com.co.uk domain, people were using Eventbrite on .com. While in Germany, for example, traction was much lower because people, couldn't use the product in their local language. So yes, it definitely, we see a strong trend